Good evening to everyone, and blessed day, morning for those who are following us or in other parts of the world through this live streaming. I read one author, the name of Trevor Noah, said, "Love is a creative act. When you love someone, you create a new world for them. When you love someone, you create a new world for them." I think this would be the bottom line of the feast we are celebrating today, the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary. That after a long series and history of failures, of unfaithfulness and sin of humanity, which started with the sin of the first humans, which we heard in the first reading today, God never says, die, and envision a new beginning, a new history, which after the fall of the first parents, God already planned a new world for humanity. God's love indeed is creative, and because of God's love, He wanted to create a new world for His beloved. As we read, for example, the history of humankind, after a long, dark, and complicated history of humankind, last week we were the Bible study of Father Randy Flores, an online Bible study, where he is discussing the book of the former prophets, the history of the kings of Israel. And you would marvel the being elected by God, anointed by God, but they would end in failures and disasters. Disaster after disaster. And we would expect a total failure at the end. But lo and behold, God's love indeed is creative, that He offered a new beginning for humanity by pouring the fullness of His grace to a lowly creature, a young woman, Mary, the so-called full of grace. How is it possible? No? Sometimes this is the question. How is it possible that all a long series of failures, of sin, no? How can there be full of grace? There is even an idea that when you are born, that you have the original sin already. How can that be? That long history of failures, of sinfulness. Here comes the so-called full of grace, called by the angel, "Hail, full of grace." No, the only one to be called full of grace in the Bible, Mary. How is that possible? That's the question, no? But did we not say that love is creative, that is capable of creating new world, a new reality for the beloved? In short, God, in His creative love, wanted to recreate His beloved creation, humanity, by providing a new world for them, a world that is full of grace which God has realized and shown first in Mary. And Mary, the full of grace, became the worthy abode of God's Son into the world. And from her, the Son of God took His flesh. The simple logic, especially of the church fathers, is this: is not possible that every human being born shares already the so-called original sin? The argument of the church fathers is this simple. No, they say, if one is full of grace, they said, and God calls her full of grace, meaning there's no more space. If one is full of grace, there's no more space for sin. Kagaya ng isang container, if it is full, no, it cannot be filled with other, no, they say. So that is the simple illustration of how the early church understood the sinlessness of Mary. And it is possible because, as we have said, love is creative, and God wanted to prepare a worthy abode for His Son. And in fact, this would become the principle, the sinlessness, the purity of Mary, and the purity of of Mary becomes the source also of the flesh of the Son of God, no? Because from her, no, the Son of God took His flesh. But the story does not stop there. This sinlessness, this full of grace, does not stop there. That full of grace is being offered now to every baptized, as we have heard in the second reading. The Son of God, full of grace, Mary, no, He has shared that full of life, full of grace through His Son, as we share His death and resurrection in the sacrament of baptism. So from Mary's sinlessness, grace abounded, especially with the coming of her Son, Jesus Christ. And from Christ, we have received grace upon grace. The beauty and the creative love of God. So God's love is created, and it can bring out life from the filth of sin, from failures, from death. This is the message, I think, of the Immaculate Conception of the Blessed Virgin Mary, made possible because of God's creative love for humankind. Our faith and devotion to the Immaculate Mother invites us to live also this creativity of love, especially inspired by God's love. The love that it never gives up in doing what is right, what is good, what is honorable and truthful, even if others cease to do so. Creative love that seeks to find ways and means so that goodness would prevail and prosper in the midst of egoism. This love that motivates people to live with passion and enthusiasm in the midst of depression and discouragement. Indeed, one who truly loves not only wishes the good for the beloved, but creates a new world for them. And how many parents, no, creative in their love, in their sacrifice, in order to provide better future for their children. This is a proof that love indeed is creative. And God's love is indeed creative, as He has shown in the life of Mary, who became the principle of grace, the model for the new humanity. May our Blessed Mother inspire us also to be creative like God in loving others and loving especially those in need of our love. Amen.